Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Reservations. We're your hosts. I'm Iain Reid.
And I'm Jeremy Blair.
Jeremy, you know war games?
You know, you know war games?
You know war games?
That's so good.
Well, welcome back, everyone. Yes, we're doing this over Zoom again, not because either of us are sick, but in our hometown.
The entire state of Texas is frozen.
Yes. So to avoid Jeremy or even I getting in a horrible wreck, and we never do this ever again, we're just going to be safe, do it from home. And then next week, when it's warmer, we'll be back together again. Yeah. And it feels so good. So Jeremy, man,
Yeah.
I am so excited to talk about this. Like, I don't think I've been this excited to talk about one of your picks in quite some time. I mean, a lot of your picks that have surprised me. I was ready to talk about, but this, oh my God, dude, I'm so excited to talk about this.
Yeah.
If you tuned in 2 weeks ago to our Great Gatsby episode, which, well, actually before that,
Yeah. like 6 weeks ago or something like
that. Yeah. You should know what this episode is. If not, because this episode was supposed to come out last week, but Jeremy abandoned me for a week.
I went out of town.
This is Iain Reid's / Charlie Kaufman's I'm Thinking of Ending Things. Why I say it like that is because we are going to touch on the book quite a lot.
Yeah, as soon as I thought about doing this episode, I was like, we have to do both the book and the movie. Neither of them, now that this movie exists, neither of them are standalone pieces. To me, you need both.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because when you told me very early on, before you even pitched this as an episode, you told me that there's things that the book answers that the movie leaves vague, but then there's things that the movie answers, but the book leaves. Wait, I think
you nailed it.
But yeah, and I did feel that, and there's some things that, yeah, the movie you get an answer to immediately, or not immediately. It's more obvious in the film that that the book, and that's part of the brilliance of the book, but the book, this reveal isn't until the end of the book.
Yeah. And the movie sort of, because Kaufman doesn't say, here you go, right?
Mm-hmm.
He wants you to piece it together, and watch it several times. And where Iain Reid says, here you go, right?
Right.
Here's the overall answer to this mystery.
Mm-hmm.
Where Kaufman almost wants you to get it through sort of artistic interpretations, especially the ballet at the end, which
Yes.
Which is a very Kaufman-esque choice to make.
Yes.
But anyway, listen, let's go ahead and start with the overall story itself.
Yes.
So let's talk about the book. Let's talk about Iain Reid. The book is, it's astounding how engaged you are when you're either listening or reading it. You're just like, I need to know what's going on, right?
Yeah, absolutely. When we did the Great Gatsby episode, I mentioned how I think I was like 2-3 chapters in the audiobook, and I was digging it. And then off mic just now, I mentioned how I made it to like chapter 13, 14, and I was all in. I was sold, and I went and bought a physical copy of the book.
Yeah.
Mainly for Ashley. It was around her birthday, but also as a way for me to physically read it, because I was like, you know what? I'm hearing someone read it to me, and I'm forming my own kind of images in my head. What would happen if I read it myself? And so maybe later on I'll do that. But yeah, the book is phenomenal. And I did a little research on Iain Reid. This was his first novel.
Yeah.
And I mean, he knocked it out of the park on his first novel.
Yeah, he had done nonfiction stuff before this, sort of
Hmm.
memoirish stuff, and so I read a couple of reviews on the book, um, because I just wanted to know what the overall perception was and whatever.
Right.
And so Hannah Pickard from the New York Times. I read hers first, and she was a little more critical of the book. She liked
Okay.
it, but she was citing things she didn't like about it. One of them was being the memoir sort of esque style of the dialogue or of the narrative itself. Because
Okay.
he's so used to doing these nonfiction stuff, he brought that aesthetic to this fictional novel, right?
Yeah.
And again, I'm not a reader, shocker, but I didn't quite understand that critique. I and I didn't understand why it was a detriment, but it doesn't matter. But she also put that the character's actions are just to get to the high school, right? And I'm not sure I agree with that.
Neither do I. I don't agree
Because
with
she
that.
was saying that everything they do is just a means to that end to get to the high school, and I disagree. But I think she was just because it's such a strange story and a strange narrative
Yeah.
that I don't know if she's watched a lot of surrealism or if she's read some surrealism. I don't think she has, right? Like she's never seen a David Lynch movie. Like
Oh yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like these so this wasn't strange to me. This was just, it is strange, but it wasn't, strange to its detriment.
Right, right, right. Like we were talking about last week, about the surrealism that the book itself is already really surreal, um, in terms of narrative and what our heroine is describing to us, heroine slash hero, is describing to us. It's very odd, that how she's describing what is happening. Um, so yeah, I agree with you that getting to the high school, and especially with the movie, which I'll get to, the movie, yeah, I agree with you, dude, that it's not a means,
Yeah,
it's
I didn't agree with that either. She also said that the book doesn't give enough clues to the twist ending. And after thinking about she cited The Sixth Sense, where The Sixth Sense, which is odd that she cites a movie for a book, but that's not the issue I'm having. But where a movie can have visual clues,
right.
like spoilers for The Sixth Sense, by the way. Go watch the stupid movie. Um, Bruce Willis was bred the whole time, and so when I said bred on purpose, so uh when like they're at the restaurant and she's not talking or looking at him, right?
Yeah.
There's a great Nate Bargatze quote. He's a stand-up comedian. He said that women give the silent treatment so much that we as an audience believed that she would just not talk to
Just
him
ignore him.
for a year rather than rather than just think maybe he's not there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So but anyway, where that gives visual clues, this has to give verbal clues, right?
Yeah, and with books, especially with a book like this, where yes, we're relying on the narrative to give us clues about how is this going to end. Um,
I thought the interludes did a great job with that.
Absolutely. Like I told you, the first interlude I heard, I was like, wait, what?
Yeah,
What does this have to do with the story?
right.
And then again, after finishing the book and really thinking about it, I was like, oh, these were the clues, and
They I think halfway through, one of the interludes mentions that he used to work in a lab
uh-huh. Yeah.
before he was the custodian, right?
Hmm.
And I think that's when you're gonna start maybe toying with the idea that the custodian is Jake, right?
Right.
Because at that point they had already mentioned that what Jake does for a living,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah,
works
yeah,
in
yeah.
the
That
lab and does like the
the bio.
biochemistry stuff, right?
Yeah,
Um, which is, I mean, Iain Reid must have either a buddy or he is himself
a
a biochemist
biochemist.
because like that was pretty, you know, advanced for me. I thought,
Yeah,
whenever
yeah.
he was describing what he did.
Hearing about how they have to like manipulate the proteins and like this, this,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. I was like, that's nerd shit. I don't know anything about that. But
I'm not
anyway,
reading this to learn.
but then I came across Naomi. She writes for the Globe and Mail, which is a
Okay.
Canadian publication.
Which
Uh,
Ian Reid is himself Canadian.
Canadian. So she's the one who cites his nonfiction work
Hmm.
and says, this sort of bleeds into the way he's writing this fiction novel, right?
Okay.
She doesn't say anything good or bad about it, but she's just like, this is why it's like this, right?
So hers was more of like a neutral review.
Kind of. She liked it. I mean, like again, um, she was she was more positive than New York Times. Like,
Right. Well, and I feel
um,
like New York Times is a little pretentious anyway.
and I agree. Um, I wrote down two quotes from Naomi from the Globe and Mail.
You
Sorry,
just,
I don't know how to pronounce her last name.
you just gotta do like a substitute. Mrs. S.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Naomi S. She says two things, and I loved these quotes so much that I wrote them down. The first one is, we see the mise en scène through her eyes, meaning the narrator.
Hmm.
And over the course of the novel, the gaze skews um, progressively scarier, right?
Yes.
Um, which is absolutely true. We go from this sort of, I mean, drama
Yeah.
to when you're at the high school, it's a nightmare,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah,
It's
dude.
horrifying at the high school, and so the further we get, even at the parents' house, there's this overall sense of dread,
Yeah.
like something's gonna happen, right? We get
Mhm.
that especially in the film, but anyway.
Mhm.
And then she says, um, paranoia informs all of her observations,
Yeah.
uh, which again is absolutely true. Again, it's that overall sense of dread and this sort of just waiting for the other shoe to drop, right?
Mhm.
This overall paranoia in our narrator, nameless narrator,
Yes.
even in the movie. So
Which, I caught on to that very quickly. I was like, we haven't heard her name yet.
and there is a beautiful reason why she doesn't have a name,
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
That
which I love. You know,
which
again,
is in itself one of the clues.
yeah, that she doesn't have a name is one
We
of the
don't know her
clues.
name.
Now, I love that we'll get to it later. Um, uh, so, all right. So, I think we should probably spoil it
Yeah, we have to.
just so we can talk about it for the rest of the time. Is that the narrator and Jake and the custodian are all the same person?
Mhm.
He never went to talk to her at the bar. He never gave her. Oh well, they talked, but he never gave her his number. They
Mhm.
never saw each other again. Um, and this is sort of his what if, right?
Right. The
What
what
if
if
I
in his
had?
head. Yeah.
And I mean, this is a story of like regret, speculation, depression, loneliness.
Yeah.
Um, he is struggling with his loneliness at this point in time,
Yeah.
and
Because
with
apparently,
with his own mental instability as well, because that is also mentioned in the book and not in the film.
yeah, in the film, and we'll get to the film, but in the film, he's just more like a lonely dude, you know. But in the book, yes, this is clearly something that has pretty much haunted him for years. That he never gave this girl his number. He never got to see her again. Um, yeah. Uh, the twist in the book, as I told you after I finished it, literally left me speechless, mainly because I was listening to it at night. So Ashley was asleep, so I couldn't be like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
Um, and left me literally slack jawed. Like I sat up in bed and was just like, what?
Yeah.
And it's, and it's very beautiful in its sadness that this was his, that the title and the thing our narrator has been saying the whole book. I'm thinking of ending things. It's not about the relationship. It's about
Right. And so every time I would mention it to someone, I'd be like, "Oh man, have you seen this movie? I'm thinking of ending things." Like, what is it about suicide? And I would have to stop and I go, "No."
no.
I would lie and I would say, "No, she's thinking of ending the relationship with her boyfriend," and that's all I would say.
Well,
Um,
and the trailer for the movie does a really good job of making you think of this like surrealistic drama thriller that's all what it's about is
yeah,
just
and when the movie was first announced, this is like a year ago, when they were like, "Hey, Kaufman's making a new movie," and then I got really excited and I was like, "Oh," and they're like, "It's a horror film." I was like, "Really? That's really interesting." I think they moved away from that term or that label after a while because it really isn't a horror film.
yeah, which
It's a mystery, it's a thriller, it's psychological, but I wouldn't say it's a horror film.
which is that's kind of something I want to talk about just really quickly.
Okay, yeah,
And then so like we mentioned, or rather you mentioned, the book takes this dive into horror, especially at the high school. When I got to that part in the audiobook, I was out with the dogs late at night,
yeah,
literally looking over my shoulder.
yeah.
I'm so terrified, not only for our narrator, but how Ian is his use of words.
Right.
It was genuinely terrifying. And that's kind of something that I appreciated that Kaufman didn't do for the movie,
No, Kaufman went a completely different direction.
which I when she interacts with the janitor, that's when I was like, she's not running, she's not scared.
Right.
And as that scene progresses, I was like, oh, he nixed that whole horror element, which I actually really liked. I was really worried. I was like, man, no, like that's what made that good. But then after the whole ballet sequence is over, I was like, okay, actually, that worked so much better.
Yeah. Um yeah, for a visual thing, yes, and for a Kaufman thing. So I mean, if nothing else, you knew it was going to be sort of this strange ride as
Mm-hmm.
soon as Kaufman's name's on it. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, well then it's going to be weird. Let's go.
Yeah.
Um, but he kind of, he interpreted this story in such a different way that not only are their conversations in the car different,
Yeah.
um, I mean, completely different. I
Uh,
think the movie
especially,
opens verbatim from the book,
mhm.
but then it starts to skew after that.
I will say some of her narration, if I'm not mistaken, is directly quoting the book.
Mhm.
But yeah, their conversations in the car, both car rides, the way there and the way back,
Right.
completely different. Um, I mean, I asked you like how faithful is the adaptation, and I would say it's a very faithful
I
adaptation.
would say it is extremely faithful. It's just through different lenses.
Right, 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 right.
Right.
Right. Some
Which
of
is
the
why I think that these things aren't standalone on, like, let's say I don't want to read the book, so I'll just see the movie. Like that, no, not with this one. Like,
so I'm gonna disagree with you there. I'm gonna
okay.
disagree with you there. Because I really wanted Ashley to watch it with me last night, and she was like, "No, no, no, I want to read the book first." I'm like, "Trust me, Jeremy assures us that
It
we
doesn't
just
matter.
watch the movie and then you can read the book." And she was like, "No, no, no, it's just a thing that I have. I want to read the book first." And I was like, "All right, not a big deal." So I watched the movie, and when it was over, I looked at her and I said, "No, read the book first." Not because I didn't dislike the movie, but there, like I mentioned at the beginning, Kaufman makes more obvious clues. And I was like, if she reads the book first, these payoffs will make more sense.
See, I did the opposite. So when this movie came out on Netflix, I watched it the day it came out, right?
Mhm.
And
And
I
you
was
wouldn't
like,
shut
wow,
up about it.
yeah. And I was like, this is amazing. Like this movie, this story, it's almost like it was made for me. I love this stuff. Like this is perfect. And so I was like, this is it, guys. This is a great movie. This is my favorite movie of the year.
Yeah.
And and then my buddy Zach, who also watched it, read the book first or listened to the book first. And he goes, bro, listen to the book. You know, you know, your speculations can stop once you listen to the book. And we agreed that it's fine either way.
Either way.
It's a little, obviously, it's a little different. He got to see an interpretation of a story that he had the answer to, and
Mhm.
I got an answer to the film that I saw, right?
Right.
And so again, there it's a little different there, but we both agreed that they are companion pieces.
Yeah, I mean, I'm saying like so for me personally, I could have done either way, but I
Mhm,
think for Ashley
mhm,
and how she is, I think reading the book for her would be better
mhm.
first, because like I said, there are certain payoffs that Kaufman does that if you understand the material first, then those payoffs in my opinion, feel better.
And I can agree with you on a couple of things on that. One of them is the caller. Um, the
Yeah.
caller is a bigger character in the book and is mentioned and is discussed in the movie, and we can hear a little bit of the voicemail in the very, very beginning,
Mhm.
when Jake slash the custodian is looking out the window of that apartment building,
Mhm.
which is not where the custodian lives.
Yeah.
Um, and it's, you can kind of hear it faint in the background, or being also played against the score and the narration. And so if you read the book, you'd be like, oh, I know what that is.
Yeah. Yeah. And and something else too, I feel like Kaufman did with that opening shot, because speaking of the caller, we never got her story of the man at her window when she was a little girl.
Oh yeah,
So I feel like Kaufman was using the custodian looking at her from that apartment window
yeah,
as kind of both.
right. He's melding things
Mhm.
together. And again, this is his interpretation of the source material, which, um, this sort of story, benefits from a sort of strange, off kilter interpretation, I think.
Mhm.
Um, go ahead.
So, so Jeremy,
Yes, sir.
we want to talk about the movie now.
Yeah.
Which I mean, we've already been, but like I feel like now we can really kind of
That's cool. I
delve
just gotta switch
in.
pages. Hang on.
Got it.
All right, we're good. Yeah.
So I love the movie.
Yeah.
Did you see my messages on our thread?
Yeah, I did. I woke up and I was like, oh my God.
Because I apologize, everyone. That is
That
Alex.
was Alex, and it was for me, so I'll have to read that later.
Yeah, something about Breaking Bad.
Oh, great. Okay, perfect.
Um, I'm the one who knocks. Uh, I loved the movie. The movie was beautifully shot,
Yeah.
beautifully acted, um, and something that I loved is and now this being our second Kaufman movie, um, I guess something that Kaufman really does well is we really feel how awkward her and Jake's relationship is.
Yeah.
In the book, we get these clues that things are still very awkward right now, especially with her wanting to end the relationship.
Yeah.
But Kaufman really cranks that awkwardness up to 11. So as
He
soon as
does.
she's in the car, I'm just like, ooh, I can feel the tension,
Yeah.
you know. And then that awkwardness continues when they get to his parents' house, and I would say that's where a good chunk of the surrealist stuff
Yeah.
happened.
So, okay, let's talk about the parents' house because really nothing besides the swing set, nothing truly is strange about the car ride.
Yeah.
I guess besides the tone, right?
Mhm.
As soon as his dad, we go from a shot of him. It's a two shot. It's him and Tony Collette, right?
Mhm.
This is David
D
David T.
Lupin from, Harry
Yeah,
Potter.
Lupin. He was also in Anomalisa, which is the last Kaufman film that we did last season.
Mhm. Uh,
We might do a Kaufman movie every season. Anyway, never mind. So as soon as we cut back to the girlfriend
mhm.
and he is 30 years younger, I was like, here we go. I What is happening? I was thrilled
Oh, when
because
they
then I was like, oh, okay, cool. So we're going to be playing with time and perception, and oh, I love this.
yeah, and, yeah, um, yeah, I love that, they're down the stairs and he's clearly older, white hair,
Yeah.
and we cut and they're all waiting for her in the dining room, and yeah, he's 30 years younger, brown hair. The only thing that stayed was the Band-Aid on his head,
Yes,
which
and the
then
Band-Aid is
moves.
mentioned in the book, but Kaufman played with it a little bit and it has it change places,
Mhm.
has it disappear, right? Not the only thing. I mean, the dad isn't the only thing that changes, right?
Yeah.
The girlfriend's clothes change.
It took me a
Uh,
second to catch that, but then I was like, "Wait, wasn't her sweater orange when they got
and
there?"
then when she's wearing the pearls, you're like, oh, okay, she's wearing different clothes. You know what I mean?
Which I really liked because, in the book, the narrator says the mom had changed clothes
Yeah.
almost out of nowhere. So I love that Kaufman used that, but for the girlfriend.
And so my original interpretation of that was um was when she was saying in the very beginning and in the book that she's feeling nostalgic about her relationship with Jake,
Mhm.
that this nostalgia, is also felt at the parents' house with them being older and them being younger and right time seems to ebb and flow, right?
Right.
Which that was my original interpretation. Now I could say that not that that's wrong, but maybe it's sort of a my kind of strange interpretation of we need to talk about Kevin and his t-shirts,
Uh-huh. Oh, okay. Okay.
that Jake in his mind now, looking back, trying to piece this narrative together of what if I had brought that girl home?
Mhm.
How old were my parents back then? Right? Was my mom sick yet? Didn't my dad have a band-aid? How old was he? What is going on there? Right.
Yeah.
And so it could be just him sort of falling apart mentally trying to piece this together.
I'm kind of glad you say that because sorry, everyone. I have a similar kind of interpretation as well,
Mhm,
with the scene in the car
mhm,
where they're parked outside the high school. And in the book, I actually appreciated that there was no sex in the movie.
uh-huh,
But in the book, they're very obviously about to have sex, but then in the movie they don't. Um, but we get this really cool shot of the janitor looking through a hole at them, and then that's when Jake freaks out. Because in the book, Jake is saying that like there's someone looking at us from the window.
right,
So my interpretation of that is that in his mind, he's almost given these characters in his mind, a younger version of himself and the girl that he wanted, such almost like free will that younger Jake doesn't want older Jake peering in on this.
okay,
Because if you notice, we get that flash of him looking through the hole,
Mhm.
and Jake goes from 0 to 10 like that.
Yeah.
Like, what a pervert. Like, I know that look because that would be his look,
Right.
and how it almost seems out, to come out of nowhere, you know. And maybe I'm just reading too much into it.
No, I don't think that's possible in a Kaufman film.
To read too much into it.
Yeah, because I mean, I see what you're saying where he is almost having his fantasy turn on him,
Mm-hmm.
right? Almost as punishment for even, considering any of this, right?
Right.
I could see that. Um,
Yeah. But yeah, because like that's something about the movie I really appreciated is that, like I've been saying, Kaufman does give us more obvious clues that Jake is the janitor, that none of this is real. Um, that this is just a story in his head, with subtle things in Jake's dialogue. I see these kids.
okay, I wanted to talk about that specifically because
Okay.
it's almost like you're constructing a narrative, like you're telling a story.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you're telling a story about you in high school,
Right.
but you accidentally make an observation of that you would have right now, right? In
Mm-hmm.
the story. And that's what he's doing. So at least my interpretation was he is telling the story about him as, in his late 20s, early 30s, but having a thought and an observation he would have at 60,
Yeah.
right? Seeing these kids out and about from old Oklahoma shows, right?
Mm-hmm.
I really liked that. That's a very old man thing to say, right?
Yeah.
Coming from an old man myself, I feel it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Because Jeremy's secretly Cormac McCarthy. Everyone.
you can't prove it. So
We've never seen you in the same room together. So
that's not true.
same as
Um,
Burger King.
that's
Are
not true.
you
He's right there. Cormac. Nah, you want to sit there? That's fine. So
like the whole
nah, he's right there.
janitor thing from Scrubs? Like, see, that's a real handshake, a brotherly handshake, and it's clearly like a woman's hand. Like,
So
um,
anyway, but I like that you clocked that line of dialogue and that sort of exchange is strange,
yeah,
right?
and the movie, like I said, the movie is just it's so good, and having the context of listening to the book first
Mhm.
helped. And of course, I knew what was going to happen. I knew, like, okay, like from the get go, I knew the janitor and Jake, they're the same person, same as the girl. They're all the same people.
Right.
But the twisty twist compared to the book, even though the book is great, I feel like it is a bit of a gut punch
Uh-huh.
because Ian, in great detail, describes him killing himself
Yeah.
with a coat hanger. Um, and as for this one, it's he's about to do it, but I like that it was a not necessarily an off-screen death, but like he's about to do something. But rather than show us, we get this great monologue between him and Oliver Babish. At you get it?
Stop it.
He's Oliver Pratt's the pick. Um,
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, Oliver Pratt. I love Oliver Pratt. Go.
Jeremy is a West Wing fan, everyone,
I love West Wing.
and you just watched the movie with Martin Sheen in it.
Yes, I did. We'll talk about it at the end.
Anyway,
Anyway.
anyways, but it just the ending of the film isn't as hard hitting. Like it's still a fantastic ending to the movie,
Yeah.
but like I said with the book, it's a gut punch. Like oh shit, he just killed himself.
Yeah.
And the
Um,
movie, it's almost like just kind of like a send off, like saying goodbye to this person, you know.
yeah, and in sort of a really strange, surreal way that and I should have wrote it down. It's called something. it's one of the late stages of hypothermia
Oh,
where
it's
it tricks your
paradoxical undressing.
boom, where it tricks your body into thinking you're overheating.
So
And
you take off all
so
your clothes.
right. And so that's what that was supposed to be, is him. It's almost like he's still in the car or still in the truck or something.
Hmm.
And he takes off all his clothes. Listen, I don't, again, it's this sort of Kaufman-esque sort of strange thing that's going on.
Yeah,
Um,
especially with how they end the movie
yeah.
with the
So
monologue from A Beautiful Mind, which I love.
yes, A Beautiful
100%.
Mind. It is one of the posters in Jake's room,
Hmm.
um, in his childhood bedroom. It's marked on the door.
You'll see
Uh,
them.
and so I think obviously that was deliberate. It also plays in the idea of this, he has mental instability.
So he sees himself comparable to John
John
Nash,
Nash.
which
Yeah.
the A Beautiful Mind, for sure, a future episode. Uh,
Yeah.
love that movie. I think Russell Crowe. Of course, Russell Crowe I think is great in anything he does, except for that stupid ass horror movie he just did recently.
I didn't see it.
Uh, Unhinged, so dumb.
Mm,
Um,
that's so funny. Yeah, and I like the way that it melds from A Beautiful Mind into Oklahoma,
mhm.
right?
And I like that it is almost like a stage performance. Everyone is in old people makeup. They've got
Like a really obvious, right? Like you're sort of supposed to know it's makeup,
mhm,
right? High school production makeup, right?
right.
It's brilliant.
So Jeremy,
Yes, sir.
I want to talk about the girl,
Okay, yeah. Our unnamed
or as the movie gives her
protagonist.
like 5 different names.
Yes, and so I liked that Kaufman decided we have to give her some names because the caller ID has to be her name,
Mhm.
right? When the caller calls her, it needs to be from her number. And so when the mother calls her Lucy, one of the times, I think we had gotten a phone call from her earlier and it said Lucy, right?
That was in the car.
Okay,
'Cause
yeah,
the phone goes off and she looks at it and it
right.
says Lucy.
And that was before she had been named, I guess.
No, no, no. They did a real cuddle. Can't talk. Real subtle way of doing it because it's Jake is talking about poetry
Mhm.
and he says, Wordsworth supposedly wrote all his poems for a woman named Lucy, and
Oh, that's right.
she goes like me, and then her phone goes off.
That's right. That's right.
See, I pay attention.
Good job.
Um,
Uh,
but
and
I
yeah,
really like that
mhm.
her name kept changing. So it was Lucy, and then
It's like Yvonne
Yvonne,
at
and
one point. She had five, I think.
then like Louisa, and then
Louise might have been
Louise,
one of
and then
them.
Amy or Ames as he called her, which in and of itself is also a clue that because he doesn't remember her name.
He doesn't know her name,
Yeah.
right? She had never, since they had only spoken those couple of sentences to each other, he never got her name. And so I like that, her not having a name in the story, where it's coming from her point of view for 95% of it.
Hmm.
Um, it's still kind of strange that no one's calling her by name, right?
Right.
Um,
Yeah. As we're the book, we never hear her name. We never hear any mention of a name.
right.
They pretty much call her you. Like,
Yeah.
it's so great to meet you. Like, yeah. Um, I also really, really like that Kaufman made her the intellectual.
Hmm.
Well, different types of intellectual, from a painter
Yeah.
to a quantum physicist to a writer to a film critic at one point.
Yeah. I almost watched Woman Under the Influence last night just to be like, maybe it's important. But then once I saw the scene again, I was like, it's just a couple of minutes. I'm not going to worry about it.
Yeah. And so I really like that and again, like this is again, it's all clues because he doesn't know what she does.
Right.
So in his mind, she could be a quantum physicist, or she could be a poet or a painter, or you know, I don't know. I really like that he made her the intellectual.
Right. Yeah.
Not saying that Jesse Plemons as Jake is dumb,
No.
but in the book, Jake does tend to.
It is mentioned that he uses words she doesn't understand.
I
Right.
was gonna say in the book, Jake tends to be a little irritating.
Yeah, he does.
Because while I was listening, I was just like, "Oh my god, dude, shut up." So I really like that Jesse Plemons' version of Jake is more like an everyman.
Yeah.
You know, he knows what he knows. Um, and how Kaufman does it for the movie is, and she says it in her narration, he listens to me, he pays attention, and he tries to keep up. You know, so that was something I really liked, that she was the intellectual, but Jake could still stand toe to toe with her.
Yeah.
Rather than in the book, Jake's the intellectual. She's smart, but as you said, there's certain words that she doesn't know.
Oh, sorry guys, that was my fault that time.
Jeremy, how dare
Yeah,
you?
it was Best Buy. Um, So okay, I want to talk about a couple of things that I personally don't understand,
Okay.
and that we can try to talk it through.
Okay.
The
I've got my
swing
Wonder Year
set.
shirt on. Oh, the swing set.
The swing set. Because it's in both the book and the movie,
Yes.
where they are driving down this, rural, desolate road in the middle of a blizzard, and there is a brand new, beautifully, put together swing set, reds and blues and yellows, in front of an abandoned house.
Hmm.
Why?
I so I'm going to quote you. I think in his deteriorating mind, he's trying to piece things together.
Mhm.
So maybe when he was a kid growing up, he had a similar swing set, but then maybe couldn't remember, like, was it at a friend's house? Was it
Okay.
our house?
I mean, visually, it's very striking and it's very odd, right?
Right.
Uh,
Um, I actually never really have given it any thought
okay.
from the book and then seeing it in the movie. I was just like, I feel like it's a bit, not necessarily a red herring, but it's it's sort of a red herring where like it's meant to kind of throw us off as like, wait, that is kind of strange,
Yeah, that is weird.
but it never comes back around.
No,
So, or maybe it's just meant to get us prepared, like, hey, things are about to get real weird.
maybe. Yeah,
Uh,
because it's an odd thing to see, and I really liked how bright it was against
mhm.
the white background of the snow and all of that.
Yeah,
In Kaufman's movie, of course.
this red, blue, and yellow swing set.
Yeah, and it's
Um,
brand new in the middle in front of this abandoned house. That is weird. That is strange.
yeah,
Um, why it's in there? Why Reed wrote it in there? I don't know. Um, I like the idea of it. I just wish I understood it. I guess that's my thing. Um,
oh, excuse me.
the other thing I wanted to bring up, which I really liked, and I don't quite know how to interpret it, is Jake's behavior around his parents. This is in Kaufman's.
Yes. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, because in the book, Jake is just quiet during
Yeah,
dinner, during the whole time at his parents. But in Kaufman's film, Jake almost has this sort of,
he recoils, right? Like he just,
I was gonna say, animosity towards his
yeah,
mom,
yeah,
and just almost kind of distance from his father. You know, yeah, anytime his mom tries to touch him or give him a kiss, he just, and then gets angry at her when she keeps miss
right.
uh genus guna
Oh, it was the genus and
genius,
genius,
and she kept
right?
saying genius, and he finally snaps. um yeah, I would say that maybe that's a little bit of his subconscious leaking through,
Okay.
really remembering his relationship with his parents
Okay.
and really seeing how maybe I should have been more assertive with my parents, because then they have that whole conversation about, moms and how, in the 70s, the mother was blamed for everything, you know. Uh, Once again, really didn't give it much thought.
Yeah, well, it might have been, especially when the parents start changing ages.
Mhm.
It's almost like he is having that thought about seeing the kids from past high school productions,
Uh-huh.
right? He goes, "Oh man, I remember what it was like to take care of my mom when she was sick," or "I remember when dad started, having memory problems," or, uh, you know, and it's all consolidated into this one moment that he's created, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, because
which is
when,
fascinating.
yeah, because when, I mean, I'm pretty sure his mom died in that one part of it.
Yeah, she did.
Um, it definitely seems to be emotion, 20-year-old Jake, this emotion that his mom just passed. So I don't know, man. I don't know.
Okay, that's fine.
Uh, Sidebar: I read a review about the movie because I wanted to see what, because I looked up. I like to look up Rotten Tomatoes scores, and critics love the movie, which I'm like, great. We agree on something.
Yeah,
Critics gave it, I think it has like a certified fresh 82%,
which
but
is pretty good for a movie
has,
like this.
has an audience score of 45 though. And so I was reading some reviews on IMDb from users.
Oh, I read one and it was stupid.
I read the title of one. I was like, "You're an idiot. You clearly didn't get it then." And it was, "I read the book and I still don't understand what's happening."
That's the one I
That's the
read, and
one.
that's the one I read, and I was like, well, then you didn't
Then you
read
didn't get
it.
it.
Yeah, then you
Yeah,
didn't read it at all because he tells you several times,
yeah,
especially at the very end, he keeps saying we, and it's just Jake, and it's always just been me, and Jake, blah blah blah.
yeah,
It's listen, they didn't read it. You
yeah.
know what I mean?
What?
I think it's sort of impossible to miss it in the book.
Yeah, yeah. If you read the book, then you have all the answers. You know that the story that we've been reading this whole time is not actually happening. It's happening in some guy's mind
Right.
who,
As
because
he's
of,
preparing to commit suicide
yes,
in the janitor's closet.
with a with a hanger of
Coat
all
hanger.
things. God
Jesus.
damn. But yeah, and it's, I think that's sometimes the problem with, well, not problem. I wouldn't say problem with, just with surrealist movies, that people, I think people have a hard time discerning, you know, real from surreal.
Yeah, like I know you had just gotten Eraserhead
Yes, I'm gonna
on
watch
that
that.
Criterion.
Yeah, right there, right there, right there. Oh.
Yeah. Um,
But yeah, I'm gonna watch that soon.
that deliberately doesn't have answers, right? And
Good.
and David Lynch doesn't answer questions. And
Yeah.
so when you see something like Eraserhead and you're sort of confused by it, I think mainstream audiences get angry at that,
Yeah.
where people like myself get it's the joy of trying to figure it out,
Mhm.
like or have an interpretation at all, right? To me, that's the fun part is watching it and be like, I have no idea what just happened, but here's what I think happened, right?
Yeah. And thanks to the podcast and thanks to you, I'm slowly becoming that as well. Uh, can't wait to watch Eraserhead. I can't wait to finish watching Brazil too.
Yeah,
Because I'm right at the part where things are about to get super surreal.
yeah,
Um, and even though I had all the answers going into this movie, I was still like, but wait, what?
yeah.
Um,
Again, it's a different interpretation of the source material, which
mhm,
instead of we do have all of these car rides which is, 2/3 of the movie is in the
Yeah,
car.
I think someone tracked it. I read like the trivia on IMDb. It's like in total, 40 minutes of the film is all car rides.
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty substantial amount of time,
Yeah,
right? We do
unlike
spend a
Mad
little
Max, where it's the whole film.
right, exactly, right. We're comparing this movie to Mad Max, is what we're doing.
Get
In
on our
terms of
level, George Miller.
in terms of is it like Mad Max? It's pretty close.
Pretty close. Just off by like an hour and a half.
Welcome back to our podcast. How close is it to Mad Max?
Okay, this is why I think
Oh my
12
god.
Angry Men is like Mad Max. Um,
Uh,
but yeah,
but
yeah.
anyway,
So we're with them the whole time. No cuts to anything else. We're with Jake. We're with the girlfriend the whole time.
there are some interludes to the janitor in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
in that car ride. Um,
Some in the end, some in the second car ride, like when he's saying like, I see these kids who are ostracized, and he's walking in the hallway
mhm.
past, I'm assuming, the girl who ends up making the burrs,
Oh,
which we'll talk about here in a second. Um, but yeah, but even with the second car, with the second car ride, it's more them, no
yes.
interludes.
And then they
Um,
go to Tulsi Town.
yes,
Uh,
which I
Tulsi Town is so strange. So it's pretty close to the book in terms of
what
what
happens?
happens.
Yeah,
Exactly. Again, screw you, Dairy Queen. We don't need you. Okay.
but I
Uh,
like blizzards though, Jeremy.
I know.
Don't
I
you
do.
too?
I do think because I watched it last night. I think she even turned it upside down.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Did
Yeah.
she? Okay, cool.
I
Yeah,
feel
fuck
like
you,
that was
Dairy Queen.
yeah, I feel like Kaufman was like, fuck you guys. We can do it too.
Well, he also did a fuck you, Robert Zemeckis, but we'll get there.
Oh
Uh,
yes. Oh, we have to talk about that. But
that
anyway,
made me laugh so hard.
I had to pause the movie. I was laughing so hard. Anyway, okay, yeah. So
uh,
yeah, in the book, after they leave Jake's parents' house and they have this really deep conversation about
is this where they mention his brother in this one?
yes,
Yes.
the brother, which
Yeah.
I'm glad Kaufman cut that out too. I felt like that was a little unnecessary.
Well, and it's used for us at the end of the book, but
Yeah,
Kaufman wouldn't have needed to use it.
yeah, because
So,
he was gonna give us more visual clues. But
right.
anyway, and so they stop at a Dairy Queen, and the girlfriend is lactose intolerant, which is another thing I'm kind of glad he cut out.
Because it doesn't
Uh,
matter.
yeah, it doesn't matter. And so they order two.
Like frozen lemonades.
Yeah, I didn't even know Dairy Queen had those.
They probably don't.
Um, and it's a very weird interaction. Two of the workers are giggling the whole time, and in the book it's very weird. It's very awkward, very weird. But as we were talking about off mic, Dairy Queen apparently is discriminatory.
Yeah, they didn't want their brand associated with someone with open sores on their arms.
But hey, Marvel, you want to give us money? Cool, because
Yeah,
there's a Dairy Queen in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
of course. Um,
Um, but yeah, so when they first mentioned Tulsi Town, because you see it on a billboard, I
yeah,
was like, oh, okay, we're not gonna have Dairy Queen in this. And honestly, it doesn't matter.
no, it works to his favor because
Yeah.
it doesn't exist. So it's sort of another strange thing that's sort of out of the ordinary that
And the interaction is almost exactly
yeah,
right off the pages in the book.
yeah. I mean, to the part where she apologizes for the smell because of revarnishing in the back. I mean, that's verbatim.
Varnishing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, because then they order the burrs, which would be the blizzard. And because they got rid of the lactose allergy, she turns them upside down. It's yeah.
I think that's funny. Good for you, Charlie Kaufman.
For sticking
Uh,
to his guns.
yeah, and I liked that they also sort of used this, point in the story to get to the high school.
Right.
'Cause it's the I don't want it to be sticky. I mean, that's also the reason they go in the book is he doesn't want the cup holders to get sticky.
Which is, for the movie, that's a little bit more clues that he's the janitor,
Hmm.
doesn't like things getting sticky. He has to clean it.
Right.
Um,
Exactly. And so I really love the shot of all of
the burr cups in the
yeah,
trash can.
in the
Yeah,
trash can. I
that was
loved
so
that.
cool.
I thought
Yeah.
that was great. Again, it's sort of like, oh man, this is weird. He's been here before. And at first I was like, is he like a serial killer? Is he a killer or something? It didn't end up being that like then, obviously.
You
Uh,
know, so since we're already on the high school, I want to
yeah.
talk about that because in the book, that's where I feel like Iain Reid takes us from the psychological thriller to
Oh,
straight up
horror.
horror.
Yeah.
Very terrifying. She's trying to find Jake, and the janitor's somewhere in the school, and so she thinks she's about to get killed. The doors mysteriously are chained and locked.
Yeah.
She finds Jake's wet clothes, but no Jake. Um, and then it's not until she kind of has the moment where she finally understands, oh, I'm a part of someone else's mind. Like I'm
Yeah.
not real.
And right. And it's like you said, giving them free will or like giving them chance to question their own reality, right?
Yeah.
Which is interesting. Um, which I liked, obviously. Um, I just loved it's sort of like in not Inland Empire. That'd be a great episode. In our Mulholland Drive
Oh, okay.
episode where the movie's sort of steadily strange until the last fourth,
Yeah.
and then bam, right? That was
Uh-huh.
sort of like this, right? Where all of this is very strange, right? We get to the high school and it's chaos, right?
Mhm.
I mean, it keeps jumping. She's lost. She sees the janitor. There's a ballet. He gives a speech. The truck or the car is covered in snow, right?
Yeah.
Uh, in the movie,
But
and it
I
sort
would
of happens pretty quickly.
but I would say it's not as chaotic as the book.
Right. I know. I'd agree with that.
And I think the scene where he talks to her, as the janitor, is almost very sweet
Yeah, I'd agree.
because it's like he's getting to talk to her as himself for once, for the first time since
Right.
they met. And it kind of breaks your heart a little bit because it's almost like she recognizes who he is,
Mhm.
when he hands her the slippers and she's like, no, 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 they're yours. And I was just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like my little heart was just like, oh.
Oh,
And then the ballet scene happens, which I felt was Kaufman's interpretation of the horror
yeah,
sequence
I
in the
agree.
book, but without scaring the audience. Well, I wouldn't say scaring the audience, but filling us with more dread
Right.
that we've already been feeling. Almost kind of take like here, let's pump the brakes for you guys. This is what could be happening, you
Yeah,
know.
but in ballet form.
Yeah. Which I loved. I thought that was so different, you
Yeah,
know.
no, I mean, if you want something original, you go to Kaufman.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to see Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind
He
now.
thinks so much differently than anybody else in terms of filmmaking. I would have never thought to do a ballet sequence instead of this cat and mouse chase horror sequence.
Until it's revealed that like there is no cat and mouse. You're
Right.
literally just chasing yourself.
Exactly.
Um and like I was kind of saying, the movie ends more of on a somber note, because we know for sure something happened to him.
Yeah.
Um, because he's walking through the school naked, following a cartoon pig.
Wasn't supposed to be cartoon. I did read that.
Yeah, I read that too. That it was meant to be a real pig, but when Kaufman heard that pigs can't walk on
Wet floors
wet floors.
or turn
Yeah,
their heads.
they animated it, which I actually think adds more.
I agree. I really because he could add the maggots and stuff underneath him. He could right, and I like the animation style they chose. It's sort of
He's
strange. He's sort of see through and
yeah, and voiced by Oliver Babish. Uh,
yep.
and and it's
He's the collar as well.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, the movie was phenomenal. I told Ashley I want to physically own it, but I know that'll never happen.
Yeah.
Uh, I
Yeah.
mean,
I'll order
except
you
for
one.
you, who buys people who rip it and dip it.
Okay. First off, they're a legitimate service. I it doesn't matter. It listen. I'll send you the link
You're not defending
because
yourself to me.
no, because I played it last night. That was how I watched it, and it's great. It's perfect. It looks phenomenal. The transfer is amazing. So
But yeah, man, it just I I loved the movie. I was so excited to watch it, and it paid off. The book is phenomenal. Like I said at the beginning, I don't think I've ever been this excited to talk about one of your picks, which makes me sound a bit like an asshole.
yeah,
Uh, but I feel like I'm growing more and more into the taste of the movies that you like.
yeah,
I still will never watch Hereditary or Midsummer,
unbelievable.
or Sodom. You will never get me to
Okay,
watch that.
first up, it's called Silo or
I
the
don't care.
120 Days of Sodom.
I don't care. I will never watch it. Um, but,
Oh,
oh man, the movie just I don't know what else to say because the
it's an
movie's just
experience,
yeah.
you know, it's strange, but it's beautiful and it's thought provoking and it's right. I mean, it's Kaufman can do no wrong. So
Yeah.
that's how I feel.
So Jeremy,
Yes, sir.
would you like before we wrap up,
Yeah.
would you like to talk about Kaufman's "fuck you" to Robert Zemeckis?
Yeah, because it's once they get to the parents' house, it's one of the things that changes, which is how they met, right?
Mhm.
Which is at that restaurant or what that diner or whatever, which is from this fake movie that the
That
janitor's watching.
the janitor's like watching as he's eating his lunch,
Yeah.
which I actually had to look up to see if it was a legitimate movie because the actress who plays the waitress, she was in The Boys, and I was like, is this
Yeah,
like a
they're both real actors. I mean, these aren't like yeah.
yeah, but I was like, is this a legitimate movie? So I looked it up and I was like, oh no, it's fake.
No, he's just being mean, which is hilarious.
So is there like some bad blood
I
between
don't know. I just think that, it's like I need something really cheesy and awful. Who could do that? Oh, Robert Zemeckis.
but I think it's because the last few movies Robert has done hasn't
Oh, they've been terrible.
yeah, was it Welcome to Morrowind and
Oof.
what's that one that Joseph Gordon-Levitt did where he's
The walk, where he's
yeah.
walking. Right. He also did like the Christmas Carol. He also did Polar Express. Let's not let him off the hook. All right, he's
Okay,
done.
well, but here's the thing though. Polar Express, that's a good movie. That's a good Christmas movie.
No, that's not true.
Um,
That's not true at all.
but we can't fully give Zemeckis shit because I mean he gave us Back to the Future.
Yes,
We got that Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
and we got that
And
Castaway. Listen, I understand.
well,
All
and
right.
I knew you were gonna go to something else besides Forrest Gump
Oh yeah, I don't like Forrest Gump
because
that
you
much, but
un-American piece of shit.
it beat Shawshank for Best Picture. It's ridiculous.
It's a great fucking movie.
I don't have time to explain this to you right now, but you're
We have
wrong.
all the time in the world apparently.
Ugh.
Um, but no, yeah. So when that popped up, directed by Robert Zemeckis, I laughed so hard. I literally had to pause the movie so I could stop laughing and so I could pay attention again. Because it was
Yeah, because it is sort of mean.
it is because the movie, if this was a legitimate movie, that would be such a shitty ending for it.
Yeah.
So everyone, so let me paint you a word picture, everyone.
I mean, hopefully you've seen the movie by now.
Yeah, if you haven't seen the movie, you should have stopped listening a while ago. But if you have, and you just need a refresher of what we're talking about. Let me paint you a word picture. The janitor is watching a movie while he's eating his lunch, and it's one of these very formulaic movies where there's a girl and a guy. The guy loves the girl. The girl happens to work a minimum wage job, waitress, and he confesses his love to her in the middle of her diner rush, um, and then she gets fired. And then they're having this conversation about how like she needed that job, but then it kind of finally sinks in. Oh, hey, did you say you love me? And then she holds his hand and just says idiot, and then boom, directed by Robert Zemeckis. If that was a legitimate movie, I would have screamed at the screen. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Of course, it's not, like I said, it's a very formulaic movie,
Yeah.
which is also in itself kind of funny that Kaufman is like these are pretty much all rom-coms now. There you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. I mean, he's done a romance movie.
But it was it
Eternal
formulaic
Sunshine.
like that?
No, it was Eternal Sunshine. So I don't think he knows how to make a formula, and I don't want him to. But
Well, did you know, sidebar, did you know that he actually wrote the first draft of that movie that's coming out, Chaos Walking?
I
And
didn't.
and then left the project. So I don't know who wrote the final version of the movie that had been delayed for like 3 fucking years with Tom Holland and my boy Mads Mikkelsen.
Mads. I do love me some Mads.
And Nick Jonas is in it, and Daisy Ridley.
All right.
Uh, but anyway, so Jeremy, are you ready to wrap up?
Yeah. Yeah, I am. I'm really glad you liked this one.
Yeah, man.
And yeah, I'm super stoked for you to see my next pick. We'll talk about it here in a few minutes because it may take a minute for people to find a place to see it.
Yeah, I know. Before we talk about that, yeah, man, I love the movie. I love the book. And now that I own the book, I mean, I have the audiobook. I can re-listen to the audiobook whenever I want to, but I for sure definitely want to sit and read the book and see if maybe I can form my own thing.
Mhm.
But I loved it. Once Ashley reads it, I straight up told her, I was like, we will watch it because I am willing to watch this movie again. Yeah, it was phenomenal.
Awesome.
And speaking of your next pick, which is not
Yeah.
next week's episode,
No.
we'll tell everyone our next week's episode. But your next pick, I feel like I saw it somewhere.
It used to be on Netflix for a while, but they took it off. So
Bastards.
yeah.
I saw it somewhere on Blu-ray because it was like its first release on Blu-ray.
Dude, mine was so expensive. It was like $30 on Amazon or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So Jeremy, what is your next pick?
So my next pick, and I won't throw up the Blu-ray. You can just put the poster up if you want. Is Don Hertzfeld's "It's Such a Beautiful Day." This one is, in its representation, you're going to think it's silly, but once you start to get into it and once you watch it, it's going to break your heart. I mean, it's such a wonderful movie. I love it so much. And it's so short. Every once in a while, I'll just throw it on just to watch it every once in a while. It's about an hour.
So if anyone needs a little help understanding what this movie is, you've probably at some point been on YouTube and found a video called Rejected Cartoons. It's by the same guy. I may put a little still up of the cloud with his bleeding anus.
Okay, great.
Because I feel like that's the most famous one in that, or besides my spoon is too big.
That's my favorite one.
But yes, so I'm actually excited for that because I've seen it everywhere, and I've always wanted to watch it. I've always been curious about what it is.
It is taking his multimedia artistic style with this traditional, flip animation with his stick figures, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he adds in photographs, he adds in like physical, like he'll wrinkle the paper and it's hard to explain, but once you see it, it's you're not going to believe it. You might cry.
Well, I mean, shit, dude, Warrior made me hysterically cry. Like
this
like
one's sadder.
like streaming down my face, like even wiping them away. I was just like, ah! Like,
yeah, this one's sadder than that one. So
Well, I mean, we did say this is the unofficial season of Downers. So.
Well, it's my unofficial season down. All right, Rain.
So,
what's your next pick, man? What's next week?
So next week, I feel like we've been talking about this movie a lot, how we will eventually do it. We're going to talk about it, and we just never get around to it.
That's probably true.
So next week, we got 3 actors who are all in Marvel. We got Mark Ruffalo. We got Robert Downey Jr.
I love Robert Downey Jr. Oh my God.
I'm
so excited.
Jake Gyllenhaal. Next week will be Zodiac.
Yes. Now we're talking.
And we'll have a special guest with us next week as well.
Yeah.
To discuss the film. Yeah, man. I remember the first time I watched it. You're gonna be mad, but I think you'll also be glad that I did watch it. I saw the poster on Netflix. I was like, "Is that Robert Downey Jr. right there? And Jake Gyllenhaal?"
Yeah.
I was like, "All right, I'm gonna have to watch this." I put it on, and I was in love. I was like, "This movie is awesome."
Yeah.
It is so well written. It is so well directed. So well acted. It is the perfect thriller. In my
people have called it the greatest detective film or crime film of the 21st century so far.
Yeah, it is. It's phenomenal.
It's the movie I've probably seen the most times in my life. I've seen it well over 20 times.
And you better believe, audience, we will talk about the real Zodiac killer and a lot of that shit next week too.
I know so much about this movie. This is going to be really exciting.
Man. I knew you'd be jazzed.
Little sneak preview. So David Fincher is such a meticulous filmmaker that you could walk onto set into the San Francisco Chronicle set, dig through the stack of newspapers, pull one out from the middle, and read it in its entirety. They didn't cut corners; they were all legitimate newspapers.
Really? So it wasn't like,
or the day it's supposed to be chronologically that they're shooting.
So it wasn't like they just printed the same word over and over again to make it look like paragraphs.
Nope. It is the actual San Francisco Chronicle paper. Like, let's say the day was supposed to be like November 12th, 1969. That's the newspaper it's going to be. 69? So
that's, man.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've got some David Fincher movies on my Criterion wish list, I think.
The Game?
Yes. Yes. You told me to put The Game on there, so The Game is on. But anyway, so Zodiac next week.
Yes.
We hope everyone enjoyed. I'm thinking of ending things. Definitely check out the book.
I hope it was worth to really get on to you guys about doing both the book and the movie. I hope that was worth it. But
yeah, before I ended, I was posting about like, doing some homework for the podcast. But I think it was worth it. And guys, I think it would help the experience if you did both. And like Jeremy said, you can do either or first, movie then book, or book then movie. We hope you enjoyed. I know we did our spoiler late, but turn us off. If you've made it this far, turn us off now. I mean, it's too late now, but turn us off.
Too late now.
Go watch the movie. But we will see everyone next week for Zodiac.